All right, welcome to the Forge Coffee Break. This is the episode number 49 of the Coffee Break. So in 2 weeks, we have the 50th episode, so it'll be very fun. Thank you very much for joining today. Hoping you are having a great week working on your project. And as usual, this is a space for open questions, any topics and projects that you're working with. And as usual, let me start with you. What topics or questions you might have, what kind of projects you are working on. We have lots of things from Autodesk as well, but let me start with you. If you want to open your microphone, especially if this is your first time coming, just talk to us and see tell us what you're doing and what you are up to. So people are quiet.
No, yeah, Edgar here. Augusto, I'll open the mic. I haven't been working on anything lately, but I shared with you based on your previous, or 2 weeks ago, you said, hey, who's using the SQLite database? So I sent you some stuff around that, and might not be the topic for today, but I hope to sort of connect with you guys on how to take that any further.
Yes, I saw that overnight, right? So you sent it a few hours ago, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I got reminded.
Yes, thank you very much. I'll definitely follow up on that. Yeah, I saw that one as well, Jonathan. I think you posted on Twitter, right?
Yes, because I didn't know where to send it. I couldn't see your mail, and I knew I could find you on Twitter. So so yeah. Found your response and sent it. It's let's say a bit generic because I'm not involved in the details of that. I'm kind of the ears.
Yeah. So
listening here to things that are going on and then updating guys who are more involved. And the plan is for me to be more involved in our Forge and BIM 360 or Construction Cloud stuff a bit later this year. So that's why I'm picking up.
All right. Yeah. So let me just give some context for others that did not join the last one. We are working on improvements on. You may have heard about the idea of data exchange. There is an API that is available today, and we are working more and more on how to move those models to the cloud. So how can we have that information on the cloud available for everyone? And one of the first research topics is how can we make better ways of accessing the property database that you see on the viewer. So that information, there are many ways to access that information. And we discussed that last week. And I was mentioning, if you're working on that, please send me a message or book some time so we can really understand what you're working with. And so that was the general context that from last week. And again, thank you, Jonathan and Edgar, for sending the feedback. I'll definitely follow up on that. I got your message, and we'll keep working on it. Thank you very much for your feedback. It's very appreciated.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I can show you in a bit more detail if we're, let's say, in a smaller group, because I need to protect some IP.
Yes, of course. And we can book some time with you if you want, get some one-on-one time with you. And I believe that, I don't know, 3-4 weeks ago, Bowen, you mentioned about the model coordination feature, right? And I did get the research team to contact you. Did they do already? Did they contact you?
I don't believe I've heard back from them yet.
Okay, I'll make sure they do it as soon as possible. But I got the contact late last week, and I forwarded them your message, so they should be contacting you to do some deeper investigation with you.
Okay,
so it's important.
Awesome.
It's always very good when you all provide us feedback, and myself and my team, you can try to find the best person to get that feedback. That is usually some research team around that. Again, thank you.
Hey, thank you, Augusto.
Oh, hi, Jim. Long time no see here. Kevin as well.
Yeah.
Kevin's coming very often. All right. So, any other projects or ideas that you're working with? Well, this week is very quiet. So.
Yeah. Anybody have any problems? Things you're struggling with? Anything goes?
Yeah.
Hi, Augusto, do you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Ole Nyland from Statnett, Norway. Jim, you was visiting us some time back, so just a question regarding Forge and Europe servers. Are there any progress or thoughts about moving to Europe with the Forge servers?
Sorry, I didn't get the question.
I think I
yeah.
got it. I think the question Ole has is, you know, when will kind of all Forge services be available, like on our Ireland data center, so that
Correct.
the data may not have to pass through the U.S., such as, you know, by the model derivative service. Yeah, and you know, we're still working on it. We're not done. I think an expectation is late this year we might get there. You know, we are pursuing adding more data centers, you know, not just kind of adding more capability in the Irish data center. Like I know on the list is, you know, is one in Germany. Ones that I haven't heard us say we're going to do, but we hear from customers a lot, is one in the UK, who's got a bunch of government standards that we're kind of wrestling with. And, you know, as I told some of you, we did a bunch of work in order to make Forge available through FedRAMP, which is the US government's data center standard. And that work we've done to kind of package up the services will then be useful in us propping up other data centers. Again, like Germany, like Australia, where we have a performance problem. You know, some places it's about IP and kind of legal government. Some places it's about performance. Australia is a long distance away from any of our servers. And if you're using Fusion or BIM 360, you notice it. So, Ole, I'm not giving you you know, an answer like, you know, Q4 it's going to come, but you know, it's been a bit harder than we expected. But we recognize the need and we're headed in that direction.
We are waiting eagerly because we really want to take use of Forge and the possibilities. But we are, sad to say, not allowed by the rules in Norway. So that's the reason.
Yeah. The other thing I think anybody in this situation, and I suspect many of you have heard us before, when we run into this with customers, we always talk about when the data, where the data is stored and kept, is totally in the customer's control. And that can be in Autodesk's AWS data center in Ireland, or it can be on-prem, or, you know, in OneDrive or someplace. You know, that's a software architectural thing. But the tricky part is the data today. I think, as you know, Ole, not everybody may be totally clear. The data passes through a US server to get processed.
I know, but the company, not everybody knows, but I know. And to be honest, I don't tell everyone.
And that's exactly it. Like, we have a lot of customers where the IT technology people understand their data passes through the US in a temporary way, transient way, never stored. And is that okay? Don't ask, don't tell.
Yeah. Thanks.
Hey, is that happening in specific moments in terms of certain transaction or processes that has to happen, just out of curiosity?
Well, yeah, if you want to view something, it needs to be processed by our derivative service, which externally you know as model derivative. Those model derivative servers are in the US.
So basically almost anything.
Well, depends on what you need. If you need like BIM 360 data, you know, issues or some admin thing, the answer would be no, it never goes through the US. But if you're going to view it using the Forge viewer, it's passing through the US at some point. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah, and we absolutely get long term, you know, that's not that doesn't meet everybody's needs. We need to be able to do that. in the EU, and we need to be able to do that in a few other places. But it's kind of heavy lifting, and every time we prop up a new data center, it's there's a real ongoing costs, north of $1 million a year for every data center. It is coming. We know we have to do it.
Perfect.
Yeah, if you want to get real interesting, you can talk about places like China. It's like, yeah, where it's behind the Great Wall of China, and you want to talk about government regulations, like they need complete access to all your source and all your encryption keys. Like, how do you deal with that?
We don't want it stored there, so we go for Europe.
Yeah. Europe's
No.
more straightforward.
Yeah. Many parts of Europe, at least.
Yes, most parts.
Yeah, I will tell you, this is all being sales driven. The sales team says the size of the revenue opportunity by adding, this extra data center is, and that is what sets the priority.
Yeah, and then the problem is that you don't show our numbers because you can't use it since it's not in Europe. So it might be most likely most Norwegian governments type of companies in BIM world have this issue, but especially the ones with sensitive data.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Jim. Thank you, Ole and Jonathan. Alice is asking about Tandem APIs, right? So you're trying to see if you can have a custom app. Is that what you're asking for? Alice.
Yeah, that's what I was asking for. I saw that they pushed out the kind of like a test site of Tandem APIs where you can go in and kind of play around with it, just a test of just a connected BIM 360 you might have. And I'm just curious, like you can go into Git and grab an extension and throw it into your code, like a nested viewer or something, and that'll present pretty easily. I'm wondering if that's something that they'll be doing with some of the extensions from Tandem.
Okay, so I think Michael's not here. So in few words, or as much as I know, and Michael is really the expert there. But you can definitely send some questions to him or to the Forge help support, and he can get some time with you to explain the details. But in essence, you have the Tandem viewer, which is the same Forge viewer we have, but with some specific modifications. And there are a few endpoints to read and write data to that, right? So you can read and write to the Tandem database, and then push that information, and you can show that information in the Tandem viewer, which is the same Forge viewer with some additional layers on top of that. And that can be an external application. So you have an external application that is calling, pushing and pulling information from Tandem, but you cannot add extension in Tandem, so you cannot change the Tandem interface. And I suspect that you saw the sample application, right?
Yeah, I was playing around with that when it came out. Looks pretty cool. So I was just curious. That helps though. That's good info.
Yeah, and I think Alice, with Tandem and with the API, we were pretty clear with the Tandem team. People want custom, I'm going to call it forms. So whether it's a web page or a mobile app where people can, change data, update data, maybe, get asset tags, do inventories, where you don't want to give them the kind of the Tandem interface, which is more suitable for a desktop, and creating your own dashboards. So again, people who the Tandem interface is more complex than you want. And it reminds me of how a lot of people use Forge with BIM 360 Autodesk Construction Cloud, right? You want a custom view.
Right.
Yeah. So that's very much kind of the early adopter if you're going to dive into Tandem. Longer term, can I change the Tandem UI? Yeah, as Gusto said, no. It's kind of like BIM 360 ACC. Can you change the UI? It's no, though kind of sort of with partner cards, and there's kind of some things you can do. Yeah, and the other question I have, and we need Michael here, is kind of wanting to add my own kind of custom data.
Right. No, that makes sense. It's early. It's cool though. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said it's early, Alice, because it's early. And
Yeah.
Is it leading edge or bleeding edge? It's somewhere in between those two.
So I'm just getting here the announcement they did, and I think you're trying this test bed application, right?
Yeah, that test bed.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of cool to play around with, some of the little pieces they got in there, see what happens against your model.
Yep.
It's interesting to see it since I've been in the Tandem since beta. So I've kind of been watching when things come out. I like to try and figure out how are they doing it? What can we do? Can we leverage it? That kind of thing.
Yes, great. So one thing that I know for sure is that it's early, as you mentioned, and the team is really looking for feedback, right? So that's why it's still in beta. So I think one great feedback that you can provide us, if possible, is what kind of workflows you're trying to achieve, what kind of integrations you want to do, and that will help us, improve this or create a next version of the API with all of that feedback. So it's still in beta. Please provide feedback as much as you can.
Sounds good. Thank you.
The earlier the better, right? Because we have more time to address those things. So just one follow-up question. Edgar is asking, how well can it be used in the infrastructure, I suspect, domain, right? Is that the question, Edgar?
Yes, that's correct.
As I understand, it's really focused on Revit models or Revit data. When you say infrastructure, you mean Civil 3D?
Yeah, we have a blend of Civil 3D, Revit, and Pro V going on, so it's a nice mix.
Okay, so I haven't seen this kind of implementation with infrastructure in Civil 3D, so I'm not sure if it's possible or how much we can do with that.
No, just to be, I'm a big fan of being
Clear,
brutally honest at times. Tandem is, it's early, it's young. I said we're between bleeding edge and leading edge. And when it's early, you got to limit what you try to address. And right now it's Revit and BIM. And I think it's going to be that way for at least another, I'm going to guess 2 years.
And
nothing
IFC.
wrong with that.
That's a total guess. Yeah.
They've integrated IFC as well, which is kind of nice.
Yeah. It gets back to that BIM thing. That's or building BIM. It's absolutely tuned for. Yeah.
Thanks, Jim. All right, so let me move. There is another question from Mastiaj, I guess. How to deal with Excel files in BIM 360? Is that the question, Mastiaj?
That's correct. So
okay.
We are debating with a client if we should just implement download button or try to display Excel files from BIM 360. But I'm not sure how to actually pass the files into Microsoft Excel online viewer. So if you have any suggestions or resources, maybe I just missed something on block. Yeah, go ahead.
I believe that when you try to open those files in BIM, it will prompt you to get the Microsoft Office account, right? And that you can view that with Office Online. The same thing can be done with the Office Online API. So they have a documentation. I remember seeing once. Let me see if I can dig that out.
Could you say a bit more though? Is it the person you want to deliver this to? Do they want to use it as a spreadsheet, or is it just a table to see things and maybe order things?
So I'm right now implementing a simple viewer of files from BIM 360, right? So normally if we click on PDF, we're gonna see a PDF on the right side of the screen. But when it comes to other files, I know that the viewer is not going to handle this because it's not capable, right? So I was thinking about either implementing just a simple download file functionality or try to somehow display the Excel file in some sort of viewer. But I don't think it's gonna be as easy as it sounds to just open the file in the viewer. So yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's interesting because there are several types of free viewers for Office files that you can use. That you can just embed on your application, or you can use Microsoft Viewer as well.
Okay.
And you have to check if you're going to use that from Microsoft, because that will require some license as well.
Can I add something?
Yeah, go ahead.
It's like what I'm seeing is that sometimes in these kind of CDE, common data environment and setups, we're trying to get the Swiss Army knife, right? It needs to read Autodesk files, Bentley files, Microsoft files, P6. And I think it's inevitable that on the one or the other side, you'll have a download going to have to happen. And I like what Jim is saying. Are you trying to interact with the file? And what's it then doing into your model? If there's an integration, yes, but if it's just a sheet, why not maybe in your, let's say, information exchange protocol, say, hey, from Excel save to PDF, however dumb that might look, at least you can see it. Or use a hybrid world that, again, company I work for usually has stuff that is design-based information. And so the design part of the CDE is on ACC and on BIM 360. And let's say the document side is more on SharePoint. They made that choice. So you could have that hybrid world, and ISO 19650 even says you can, right? There is no one solution that you can use. As long as it's seamless, that's the better way. So I would say, hey, if it's there, could it be a link, right? A link to another document environment.
I mean, in our case, the only the idea was just to display, a static file. So it would be a little bit more convenient for an end user, just to click on preview and see a preview of an Excel file. Yeah, I will research that and see what would be the best approach. I think I'm gonna just start with download button just for now, and then explore more.
Just
Thank you.
Just one comment, if I may, on that. Really, I think what he's trying to do is make it, if the owner hub has a BIM 360 account, we want to present the documents that the owner has in their record account. So it's very owner specific, owner driven. So it's not that we're trying to fill out a form or make any orders, but if their record document is an Excel file, they want to be able to view the native file, because if they have to edit that file, even if it's offline, that's a record, that's a master record document. So it's important to be able to view a master record document for an owner as opposed to a PDF in this case.
Yeah, I agree with that, Alex.
And there's a lot of tools out there to view XLS files. If just going the standard Microsoft route doesn't work for licensing reasons.
Interesting. Thank you, Edgar, Alex, and Marcel. Any other questions? Jim, how was the data days in Europe?
Yeah, for people who don't know, I just went through, I had 6 conferences. 4 of them were Forge Data Days in Europe over this last 2 weeks. Hey, places like Munich, we had about 60 people in the room. We were in Gothenburg, Sweden. London with, I don't know, we had about 15 people from some of our largest AEC customers. Birmingham, Milan. It was so nice to get FaceTime with real people. And I know people, they get nervous about COVID, and I just want to say I spent 2 weeks on the road. I went through 6 airports, 8 airplanes, all these, many people in a room conferences, umpteen elevators with too many people squeezed in, too many hotels. And to get back in the US, I had to take a COVID test. And it's like, cross my fingers, I'm not going to test positive and I can go home. I got a negative, and they let me come home. So that was pretty exciting. And, we have data days coming up in the US next week and the week after. So great to see people. I will say data days, we start the morning out with kind of general Forge for people who are new to Forge. But then we get into what's happening with Forge Data Exchange. It's a bit leading edge. No, it is bleeding edge, no question about it. But as many of you have lived through, when something big happens, you know, you got to start the learning curve. You got to start the journey, and it will be a journey of a few years. A journey of several years as we kind of liberate data from binary files and kind of have it in proper databases where I can do queries, and, you know, I don't have to do these, you know, hour-long model derivative batch processing things. I don't need to push around gigabyte files. You know, that time, we're starting that journey. So it's pretty cool. Most people love it, but, you know, I can tell it is such a big change. A lot of people are sitting back going, I need to think about kind of the first workflow that currently is kind of clunky using file-based approaches.
So if you don't know, that conference is also coming to the US starting next week. So Detroit, Boston, Denver, San Francisco. And if you are in any of those locations, sign in, register. It's still time. Jim will be there for all of them, and should be very fun.
Augusto, which ones are you going to?
I'm going to the San Francisco only. So,
you got your 2 girls to look after. 3 girls.
Yeah, but also taking some time with family to celebrate marriage anniversary. Right? So it's already 10 years, if you believe that.
10 years.
Wow, right? So yeah, couldn't skip that one.
Yeah, you got a ways to go to catch up with me. I had my 35th a few weeks ago.
35th, wow.
Oh,
Yeah, it's a journey, right?
It's a journey.
Yeah, we're on 20 this year.
Yeah, I learned from you too. So, all right. Thank you, Jim. Very nice catch up. Yeah, so coming to the US, register. It'll be very fun to see you. And let me move to something else. Edgar, you said you have something as well. Drive. Barcelona.
Oh.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I couldn't understand Barcelona.
You know, the other thing I thought I'd mention for anybody here, on the line who's from Europe, I think we'll be back maybe January with some kind of conference series. Because again, this move from files to data is it's new. It's a leap. It's going to take people time to think through, you know, where the most compelling kind of early use cases to learn with. And, you know, whenever something's new, you know, FaceTime helps. And we need it because we need feedback, because things are new and we start to find the gaps, and we don't see the gaps until more people use the technology. We have about 10 companies using the technology today. Our goal this year is to get 50 companies using it, and that'll give us a good set of feedback on, you know, helping prioritize the capabilities of Forge Data.
Yeah, very interesting. We are almost at time, so thank you very much for joining today. Let me share this here. The next coffee break will be, again, same time, same link, in 2 weeks. June 29. So that should be right before the San Francisco event. And yeah, if you are coming to one of the US events, and next time we meet, you can share some information. So thank you very much for joining today. Hope to see you in 2 weeks. Same link, same time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.